You know, there's a lot of good and bad information out there about driving Lyft. And this video is being made because of answering some of the questions that people had concerning the first video I made about driving Lyft, to where I was wearing the exact same shirt. So, but as I was getting ready for that video, all of a sudden I got a lot of naysayers, I got a lot of critics, I got a lot of people who was calling BS. So we're going to answer some of those questions as well. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you in this first part of the video, this past week I made over $1,000 driving Lyft. $1,000. I'll put it up here on the screen a couple of times. I drove for 55 hours. I'm going to answer some questions that people had about the naysaying about it, but plus I'm going to give a lot of different ways that you can increase your profitability with Lyft or Uber, whichever one you choose. And let me say this before this first part of the video goes out. Driving Lyft and Uber is not for everyone. So this video may not be for you. If you don't like it, if you just want to criticize, maybe driving is not for you. But anyway, it is what it is. So what's up, everybody? How you doing? This is your Coach Renz. I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank all the people who are actually trying to make a difference in their life for being here and taking different steps and measures to make that difference. Like I just said in the introduction, doing this is not for everyone. If you're already making $20, $30, $40, $50 an hour, this is not for you unless you're just driving to fulfill a purpose or you're bored. But if you're trying to change your life, if you're making less than $18 an hour and you're trying to make a difference in your life, if you are making that kind of money but you're steeped in bills, if you looked at my financial alchemy videos, I talk about you can't be 98% leverage, 100% leverage, and then think you're going to build wealth. It's not going to happen. But if you're in that situation, then driving may be something for you. And let's get into the first part that I want to talk about. You have to have a reason why. Many people who come on my videos and complain have one of 2 or 3 different issues. One, they don't have a reason why they would do such a thing. And because they don't have a reason why, then they expect everybody else to fall into the same category as they do. The other thought process is that they're trolling because they have some kind of insecurities about themselves, and so they have to watch somebody's video for 20, 30 minutes and then go on there and write a whole bunch of negative comments. Please have something better to do in your life than do that. Please let your life have more meaning than that. If you're going around trolling and hating and trolling, then you really need to do some introspective looks upon yourself. And I can help you. I'm not trying to bring you down or talk bad about you. All I'm saying is, if that's what you do, go around looking for things to complain about or to call BS on, you might have an insecurity problem. The other kind of person is somebody who legit was looking for information. But there's so much negativity and so many scams and so many crazy things out there that as soon as they hear anything, they even sound remotely different, they run, they complain, they have something negative to say. They find a reason or an excuse why it won't work for them. They find some kind of flaw in the system. Now, is any system perfect? Hell no. Hell no. And this one ain't either. This one is not either. I got some issues with Lyft that I wish they would rectify. Like, why am I driving 20 minutes to go pick somebody up? Certainly there's somebody in between me and them to pick them up, and then oftentimes they're only going like 10 minutes away. It's not really worth my time. But I wish Lyft would fix that issue and make it so that it grabs the closest person to the person making the request. I can't stand when people get in a car or want to get in my car, because I don't let them, and they don't have a child seat. I'm not doing it. It's illegal. It's illegal completely. I'm not doing that. I wish they would let people know or do something concerning that. And I definitely want them to change the fact that if somebody wants you to stop and wait for them, a meter should be ticking. Because I've had people take advantage and go inside of a place for like 10, 15 minutes. And if I cancel the ride, then I don't get paid. So I would love for Lyft to fix that. So there is not a perfect system at all. But I have a why. I have a reason why I'm doing it. You see, as you guys know, I'm the owner of Uncle Renz Popcorn, and this is going to come into play in this video, not because I'm trying to promote my company, that you can go online at urpopcorn.com and order, and we'll ship it to you. If you're in the local Atlanta area, it'll get delivered to you. But there's a reason. I have a why. I have a desire to build more stores. I have a desire to expand my company, and the more money I can keep inside the company, then that would allow me to expand my company and grow and add another store and another store and another store. So I have a why to do Lyft for possibly up to 2 years. It's relative to how things go over the next few months as to how long I stay, or the next year as to how long I continue to drive Lyft. So I have a why. Some people who have come under my tutelage, their why is because they're making $10, $12 an hour, and they want to make $18 or $20 an hour, and they want to have more of their time back. So they have a why. The others have a why because they're trying to fix their credit. So they're working their regular gig, but they're getting up early in the morning, drive Lyft. They go to their regular gig, they drive Lyft afterwards, and then they're paying their debt down so that they can do, like if you're doing my financial alchemy program, so they can do a pay to delete letter because they couldn't get, the challenges didn't get it off their credit, or they're looking to do a secured loan or secured credit card so they can increase their credit score. So they're driving Lyft in order to bring in that extra income because they're 98, 100% leveraged or 110% leveraged, and they're doing it so they can get down to 70% leverage, paying off debt. So there are many different reasons why, but you have to have a reason why. You cannot say, I just want to drive just because I want to drive. I want to drive just because I want to just have some money in my pocket. It will get very old for you very quickly, and you will definitely find reasons why not to go drive. So first thing foremost, you got to have a reason why, because that why is going to drive you. It's going to drive you through those slow time frames where you're out there for 30 minutes and you don't get a ride. You're out there for an hour and it's just a bad day, or you're in not a good part of town and you don't get a ride. You're going to have to, or you're in an area that should be good, but it's oversaturated with Lyft drivers, and you haven't thought about going out to a different part of town based on the movements, the flow of your city. So you got to have a good reason why to stick through the good and the bad of it. Super Bowl week here in Atlanta, I didn't do better than I normally would, than I did the previous week, simply because there were so many drivers here in Atlanta coming from Savannah, from Augusta, from Macon. If you live in Georgia, you can drive anywhere in Georgia. So it has so many drivers up here. And then it was warm, and people were taking all those little scooters, all the little limes and lime jump and birds all over the city, and the little mopeds and the little electric bike, and we had shuttles going. The hotels had shuttles going all over the place. So I didn't do as well. Now what I did strategically, instead of hanging around downtown, I went inside the inner perimeter suburbs and a little bit on the outer perimeter suburbs. If you're familiar with Atlanta, you know we have a perimeter highway, 285. I stayed in those, not in downtown, but in those inner perimeter suburbs, and I took people from their house to the party, their house to the bar, their house to a friend's house, you know, their house to some event. The Airbnb people staying that's too far away from the city, I took them into the city. I focused on those people instead of trying to get the ones that were centered downtown because there was an overabundance. You got to have a reason why if you're going to fight through those kinds of issues, right? So let's go through a little bit about this past week. This past week, I drove 55 hours. I was like, you know what? I have a goal. I want to make $1,000. I want to make over $1,000. I made $1,001, and it took me 55 hours based on the area I drove in, how I drove, what times I drove. It took me 55 hours. Now I know one person, they told me that they live in Boston. They drive 43 hours. They make $1,300. But of course, they have a higher cost of living, and the amount of money that Lyft charges in Boston is much different than it does here in Atlanta. The same amount for a mile is not the same amount for a mile down here. So you should make more money. But it all is going to balance out at the end of the day because you also have a much higher cost of living in Boston than we have here in Atlanta. You can get like so much more house down here than you can get in Boston. I've seen some houses in Boston that cost like $300,000, and I look at those like, man, that's a shack in Atlanta. I would never pay that much money for a house like that. But that's the economy up there. So you're going to have those balances, those differences. So if you were in another city and you plan to move to Atlanta, then don't expect to make the same kind of Lyft money, but the cost of living is totally different. And that goes for any kind of job that you may do. But let's dig into some of these crates. I want to get to some of this negative stuff before we give some more tips on how to be more successful. Yeah, I got to put my reading glasses on for this part. All right. Let's see. So one of the first, and see, Jesse Hughley is the main reason why I was making this video, because he drives in Atlanta. I want to give him some pointers, but I think you guys can do that as well. You know what? Let me go ahead and give him some of the pointers. He told me the areas of town he normally drives in, which is Buckhead, Roswell, and Midtown. Those are going to be high traffic areas. Those are going to be areas where a lot of Lyft drivers are driving. And because you have a lot of Lyft drivers in those areas, it's a little bit saturated. But I also asked him what time he drives. He didn't answer that question yet. But if you get out at I get out at 5 o'clock, no later than 5 o'clock in the morning. Buckhead, downtown, Roswell, they're not up at 5 o'clock in the morning going to work, because they don't have to be at work till 8, 9 o'clock. They're not taking lifts unless they're going to the airport, they're not taking Lyfts and Ubers. They're going to be asleep or at the gym or doing something like that. So I focus during those hours. I'm on the slightly out of the perimeter area. I'm working on those people who are working class people, who work in factories, who work in warehouse areas. I'm taking them to work. And oftentimes during that time frame, I'm also taking students who go to private schools or schools out of their zone. I'm taking them to school. So you got to get out of that area if it's early in the morning, because you're not going to get a lot of drives. It's not ready yet. I don't come inside the perimeter unless a ride takes me. I don't come inside the perimeter until like after 7 o'clock, because after 7 o'clock, now those people are trying to go to work. Now they're trying to go to the airport. Now the inside of the perimeter gets busier, and the outside of the perimeter is now steep with traffic. And I try to stay out of traffic so that I don't waste too much time. But early in the morning, out of perimeter, working class people, you have to not get focused on, well, these people got money over here, so they're driving Lyfts and Ubers. Yes, they are. But you have to also think about, there are a bunch of middle income people who don't have a car, but they need to get to work. So they're paying that $8, $10 a day to get to work, for you to drive them 7-8 miles to get them to work. So you go out in those areas. You're in the north side of Atlanta where a lot of money. Go out to the east side, the west side, the south side. Pick up those people, because they are just trying to get to work. All right. So, and I never have a problem. As soon as I turn my thing on those parts of town, it clicks automatically. All right. Now, within his first comment, another gentleman who had a couple of comments, and he's a naysayer. Oh, before I go there, so then that's what I do. Then I do take a break, and I take a lunch break and that sort of thing, and you know, exercise, whatever. Well, I'm gonna start exercising, and then whatever exercise I do, because I own Uncle Renz Popcorn. Because usually I gotta take a break to come work a shift here, and that's going to play in again later. I have to work a shift here, and then I get back out and I start driving around by 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock, now the people downtown do want to go home. Now the people who work in warehouses, who work in school or schools, they do want to go home. So now I'm taking those people, I'm taking them home to the inner perimeter and outer perimeter. I'm driving around getting those people. I'm also getting a lot of the short rides downtown, because people work in one part of downtown, they want to go to another. But I'll drive those people home. And then around 6, 7 o'clock at night, now I'm back downtown, and because the suburbs are slowing down, because people are home now I'm back downtown, and I'm taking people on their little short rides. They're going to happy hours, they're going to events downtown, they're going to bars, they're getting off work later because they don't want to be in traffic. I'm getting those people at that time frame, and then I'll drive, you know, I drive about 9 hours a day, 9.5 to 10 hours a day, and I drive those people home, you know, in and around the city. And I let the app take me where I need to go. Now, one of the important things that you should understand, don't chase those colors. When it blows up in an area, I mean, I know some of you guys aren't familiar with Atlanta, but I'm going to use Atlanta places. When a place like over by the Georgia Aquarium blows up, or down in Mechanicsville, it blows up, and you're like 10 minutes away, don't chase that. Don't chase that. You're too far. It's going to go away by then. Unless it's an area like Emory, and at certain time frames, like when the kids, 6 o'clock in the evening, Emory is going to blow up, it's going to go away, it's going to blow up again, it's going to go away. It's going to keep flashing like that for like 3 hours. Over by the Georgia Aquarium, Centennial Park, it's going to flash like that for like 3 hours at different parts of the day. You know, so you got certain parts of town that'll flash like that for 3 hours or more at different parts of the day, depending upon the day as well. Edgewood bar area flashes Friday and Saturday, flash all throughout the evening. So you can drive to those chasing the color, because they're going to do that. But Sandy Springs, some of these inner suburban areas, Glenwood area, they flash. Stone Mountain area, they flash. It's not going to last. And by the time you get there, it's gone. So, and it doesn't come back, right? Maybe for an hour. It takes an hour for it to come back. So you got to, I literally for 2 months, when I was at work here at the store, I would watch the map and see what flashes and what don't, what's going at what time frame. And I tracked the hell out of it to make sure I knew where I need to be most of the time. You know, I know when East Atlanta is going to flash. I know when Mechanicsville and Cabbagetown is going to flash. I know when Stone Mountain is going to flash, and all those kind of things. So I kind of figured out where to be. You know, if I'm in an area and I'm not getting anything, I know the closest one to get to based on the time. So you have to study. If you're not willing to take the time to learn it, then you can't think you're just gonna pop out there and immediately everything blows up. You got to really study the ebb and flow of your city. So every city is gonna have an ebb and flow. So study your own city's ebb and flow. If you watch some of my other videos, I would talk about the law of rhythm right there. Everything swings to the right and swings to the left. As far as the swing to the right is as far as the swing to the left. There's a rhythm of vibration in your city for picking up people and driving these things. You get your vibration, your frequency to match that rhythm, and a whole nother level works out for you. I pick up rides all the time, and of course my sister's always complaining because she doesn't do it as well as I do because she's out of rhythm. She doesn't have the frequency. She tries to hang out in Cobb County and just drive it there all the time. She's out of frequency with the whole city, and you got to be in frequency with your whole city if you want to make this successful for you. Now, that leads me to another comment from, and I'll try to put some of these up as I'm going through them. TG says, just look at everyone else's video. They all say the same thing, but neglect to say they were actually out there 60 hours. These apps only calculate time. You actually have a rider in the car. It does not calculate the in-between rides. It's all lies. No, sir, that's a lie. I can tell you that one. Now, that statement was based on when I drove 45 hours, I think, or 45, 47 hours to make like, and I made like $760 something. And he's saying you're out there for 60. No, sir, I'm not. And it doesn't calculate that way. I actually studied that while I was learning the system, and I was watching it. It only calculates hours that the app is on. That's it. If the app is on, it's calculating your hours, because I've seen it where it had like 1 hour. I've been driving for 1 hour and 30 minutes, and then I take a 2-hour break, right? And then I turn it back on, and 30 minutes later it says I've been driving for 2 hours. It only calculates hours I've been driving. Now, other hours that I'm out there, sure, I'm taking lunch break, I'm coming into my job. Sometimes when it's 11 o'clock at night and I'm done driving and it takes me clear to the opposite side of the city that I live on, yeah, I turn it off because I don't want another ride, not even a destination drive. I'll turn it off and drive home. So if you want to count that as the extra hours I'm out there, that 1 hour, sure, whatever. But you know, I thought about that, and this week I drove 55 hours. So I wanted to validate it. I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but then I called Lyft to make sure that their app doesn't do that anyway. But so there's 168 hours in a week. I drove 55 hours. Now you guys do the math. I drove 55 hours. I spent 25 hours working at my store, Uncle Renz Popcorn. That's why I said this store comes into play. I spent 25 hours that week working in my store. I spent 25 hours sleeping. I use a product called Day Wheel to calculate my time, and I'm very meticulous about my time. I spent 25 hours sleeping through the week. I don't sleep about 5 hours a day on average. I spent 3 hours doing a podcast that I do every Tuesday night, so there'll be one tonight. If I load this video on Tuesday, it'll be tonight. A podcast that I do, a spiritual podcast and financial. I spent 36 hours on personal and business time. You see, sometimes I have to stop driving at 9 in the morning or at 8:30 because I have to go pick up supplies. And those supplies, depending upon where I am, it may take me an hour to go pick them up and then bring them to the store. I have to go to the bank. I have to do payroll. I have to go do printing. There are other business things that I have to do, so I can't always, it's not just like I stop at 10 and I'm at my store and that's where I stop. No, it doesn't work that way. I have to drive from wherever I am. So you can count that time, but that's counted in my personal and business time during the week. And then I take 1 day off a week. I only drive 6 days. I take 1 day off in the week, and that's a whole 24 hours. If you add all that up, it comes out to 168 hours, right? And you may want to call bullshit on that, but I calculate my time. My time is, even though I believe that time is an illusion, the moments that you have in life is the only thing that you have. That's the only thing we have, and you got to make the most out of it. So I am very cautious about the moments that I spend, whom I spend them with, where I spend them, what I'm doing, the entire thing. I love making videos and I love communicating, so that's why I spend time doing these. So yeah, to say that just sounds disgruntled because maybe it's just not working out for you. One person, you really have to do the hours exactly. You have to put the hours in, and they say they don't have the patience for it, and that's cool. If you don't have the patience, like I said, it's not for everybody. TG again said, But what you neglect to say is that even though the app says 4 times, he said that already. And he said that he can work 8 hours a day, and he's lucky if he gets 5 rides. And he's in Phoenix. If you work 8 hours and you only get 5 rides, you're not doing it right. Okay? You're in the wrong part of town. You shouldn't be wherever you are driving. You need to find you another part of town to drive in. Because if I wouldn't do it, if I only got 5 rides in 8 hours, I wouldn't do this either. One person said, "Tell me what you're smoking. You're funny telling all these lies in order to get people to use your code when they get into Lyft." Very smart. And I will put my code up here again. It's probably been up here the whole time. But again, they just, you're telling lies. This is from Carlos Bravo. You're telling, and I asked him, about what? Tell me, because I'm showing you my information. I'm showing you what it is. So tell me the lies that I'm telling. Because I'm just showing you what I did and telling you how I did it. And then the last person that complained, and I want to talk about that one, he said, sorry to say, but to work 47 hours and only make $769 is not a lot. I guess you don't mind paying $1,000 a month for a car you'll never own. I found that comment very intriguing. 47 hours for $769. Again, it goes back to your why. My why is I needed something that I can control my own time with, that allowed me to do everything else that I do, run my store, my gourmet popcorn and ice cream shop at Uncle Renz Popcorn, but also make my videos, spend time with my children, do certain things that I need to do that was at ease of entry. And so, is it the best that I can probably go out and do? Probably not. If I ran down my resume, I could probably get back into IT within 6 months and do IT consulting on the side and make way more money. But in 6 months, I plan on having another store, which is not going to allow me to open up, do that kind of work. So it's your why. Your why makes a huge difference. If maybe what's his name? Silver World is maybe you're making $25, $30 an hour. Maybe you're making $40 an hour. And if you are, then yeah, this is a waste of time for you. And if you can go out and make $30, $40, $50 an hour, you shouldn't do this, right? So I'm not going to discount what you said about that's not a lot of money, because maybe to you it's not. But if somebody's making $8 an hour and they can go out there and drive and make $15, $18, $20 an hour, why would you say that's, to them, it's a lot more? It is a lot of money, because that changes their lives dramatically. If somebody's making $8 an hour and they can drive and make $16 an hour, they've just doubled their income. They changed their life dramatically. That's the difference between people like me and people like him. And I'm not trying to talk bad about him, but I see a bigger view of the world than what he sees. He just sees the world through his own eyes. So when you got blinders on, that's all you see. But for other people, it's viable. If it wasn't, this wouldn't work. Lyft would be out of business. Uber would be out of business if it wasn't viable for a certain sect of people who had a reason why that was big enough for them to do it long-term, short-term, full-time, part-time. There's a reason to it. He said, I guess you don't mind paying $1,000 a month for a car that you would never own. All right, this one intrigues the heck out of me because it really shows a person's mindset when it comes to finances. So let's look at this from the reality first of what it is. Reality is when I get the bonus every week. When you're driving that many hours and you're getting, I did 124 rides this last week. You need 95 rides to get a $175 bonus. That $175 bonus, I don't count that as my bonus for my pocket. I count that as to pay the car note, right? So I'm looking at the money that's earned, and I'm not even paying attention to the bonus as if that's money I'm earning, right? So that 1,001 is money I've earned from rides. It's not including the bonus. The bonus, the 175, I look at that as paying the car note, and it pays the car note, the insurance, and mechanicals. All right. So now, if you bought your own car and you have a $500 car note, you have a $200 insurance, that's $700, and then you pay for all your oil changes, tires, tire rotation, any major mechanicals. You pay for all of that. It may only be another $30, $40 a month on average when you aggregate it. So yeah, it's less if you're driving your own car, but I'm driving the rental car program, right? In driving that, by doing the 175, it drops that car note that I actually pay for $75 a week, which actually turns out to be $300 a month. So it's not $1,000 a month, it's $300 a month. And then you say for a car that you're never going to own. Most people buy a car, they have it for 3 to 5 years, then they trade it in. They get another car. Then they have that car for 3 to 5 years. Then they trade it in. They get another car. So they continuously have a car note. They never actually own the car themselves. They're always paying a note. So what is the difference between that, of doing this and having a car note forever? Because this is why lease programs, people lease cars and then they turn it back in to have a lower rate. They lease a car, they turn it back in after 3 years. They lease another one, turn it in 3 years, and they keep doing that because they have a lower rate with that one. So as far as owning the car, why would I want to own something that depreciates every year? Every year it depreciates. Unless I buy a classic vehicle, it depreciates every year. So your idea of something you're never going to own, I don't care about owning a car. I care about owning a business. I care about owning property. Now, if it was property, that'd be different, but I care about owning property. We put stock in a car. It's a daggone car. It depreciates. Who gives a flying flip about a car? Unless you're going to buy a 1969 or 1950 Mustang, or I don't even know if they have in 50, but you're going to buy a 1969 Mustang, because I used to have a 1969 Mustang, and you're going to keep it classic, restore it, take it to shows, it somehow makes money for you. I don't even understand that thought process. Well, I understand it, but it just doesn't make, it's not viable for me. So about having a car that you're never going to own, you're never going to own your car, because every year you got to pay taxes on that car. So you don't own it. The government still owns that dang on car. And one or another, you still paying taxes. And yes, that's much less. But once a car gets too old, you can't even drive it in Lyft. You can't drive it. Once a car gets too dilapidated, nobody wants to get in your car. Your rating is going to go down. So I understand what you're saying, but that, and I don't mean to say it this way to sound mean or derogatory towards you, but you're coming from a poor people's mentality. You're coming from a working person's mentality. You're coming from the slaves of the capitalists mentality when you think about cars in that way. You have to put a car is not an asset unless it makes you money, right? Other than that, it's a liability. Even when it's all paid off, it's still a liability because you're still putting money out for it. It's not an asset. So if you look at some of my videos on finances, on financial alchemy, we talk about assets and liabilities. A car is not one unless it's making you money. Nothing is an asset unless it's making you. You buy property. You sitting in the house you're in, it's not making you money. It's still not an asset. It's a liability. Until it does something that makes you money, where you can use it as collateral, where you're renting it out, whether you sell it and you get the profit from it, it's not an asset. It's a liability. So is your car. So I don't want people to not do it because of that, because of statements like that. A statement like that gives off the wrong impression. But this goes back to your reason why. You have to have a good reason why you're doing this. If you don't, you're not going to be successful. If you don't, you're going to find those excuses not to drive. If you don't, you're going to listen to people like TG and Silver guy, who's all they want to say is negative things. They're looking for something negative to say. But like I said, maybe he makes $50 an hour. And if he does, then this doesn't make sense. Maybe he makes $25 an hour. And if he does, it doesn't make sense for him to do that. And maybe he is a car aficionado and have classic cars, so it wouldn't make sense for him. But even if you were a car aficionado, you should still know that this is a working vehicle. A working vehicle is not something you look at as an asset, and that's something you want to own. Even these car rental places, once the car gets too many miles on it, they sell them off because they don't keep them, right? They don't own them, they don't keep them, but the car makes money for them. So I want you guys to, if you're interested in driving Lyft, please go ahead and use my code. I appreciate that. If you found value in this video, I appreciate it. Please share the video, like, subscribe to the page. We talk about a lot of things. Some things you may like, some things you may not like, but just hey, like with everything, chew the meat, spit out the bone. You know, I'm a vegetarian, so I might need to change that saying. You know, take from everything what you can. Benefit from everything what you can. And the stuff, don't not listen to somebody because you maybe don't like a part of what they say. Right? Take everything you can from them and then grow from that. So anyway, y'all have a great day. I'm going to link up the other video that I did and probably another financial video. I'll put those up here. So y'all have a great day. Remember, you got to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable.